Good afternoon and welcome to my channel. My name is Joyce and I do all things personal development. If you're new here, a very warm welcome. And if you are an oldie, you're definitely a goldie. Thank you for coming back. As you can tell from the topic today, I want to talk about this idea of being a victim. And let's start by the definition. And I had to write it down because I was like, I'm not sure I know what the dictionary says about being a victim. And this is from the Oxford Dictionary about what it means. And it says this: a victim is a person who has come to feel helpless and passive in the face of misfortune or ill treatment. And it comes from the Latin word victima. Now, I know there's always a bit, whenever words are translated from another language, there's always something lost in translation. It never quite hits home. But if you've ever felt helpless, if you've ever felt like you have no control over a situation, it doesn't mean that you are a victim, because there are moments where there's really nothing you could have done. And it's okay to have those moments, because that's just part of our journey of being human and experiencing and exploring all kinds of feelings and forms, and it's okay. So I want to preface by that. And I also want to say that when we're growing up as children, there's things that we don't have control over. Our parents messed us up, most of us. Sometimes society messed us up big time. The system, whether it's the school system or, the wider system, depending on which country you grew up in, can mess us up. Religion and culture also has a part to play. So I think until you're an adult, there's parts of us that we don't have control over. But I will preface by saying that regardless of what happened to you in your childhood, it really behoves you to not be the victim, because all you do is actually put yourself through perpetual hell, because all of those systems that put you there have long gone moved to other victims. And what you end up doing is paying it forward and keeping yourself back in that bondage, while you really could release yourself through forgiveness. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, because I don't know what you've gone through, but it is doable, because you have a responsibility to live your life as comfortable and as free as you ought to be. And there's freedom that only you can give to yourself, kindness that only you can offer to yourself, tears that only you can pour yourself, right? There's things that we have absolutely no control, but the best thing to have done is to actually move on. Now, having said that, there are some things that can help you know and identify whether you are playing the victim or not. And I think the first one I always use as a sign is whether you're taking responsibility for where your life is right now. Or are you blaming other people? Are you blaming systems? Are you blaming society? Who are you blaming for your life? Now, while that might be rightly so, there's things in your life that could be improved if the systems around you supported you. There's still things that you can do to improve your life. I'll give you an example. I had a friend, had being the operative word, who never took responsibility for anything. They never changed their job because that's how far their education brought them, and that's what they feel entitles them to have the job that they have currently. I don't believe that. I think you can do anything you put your mind to, education or not. That was beside the point. He felt to him that he couldn't progress or he couldn't move into a different career unless he was educated. Okay, why don't you go back to school? Well, he couldn't go back to school because that would mean taking a pay cut, and that would mean moving into a different house, or a different area. Okay, why don't you move into a smaller house then? Take a pay cut and move to a smaller house, because then that would mean you could at least live within your means, but also be able to, in 5 years, be in a better place than you are right now. Well, they couldn't do that, because how could they live in a 1-bed flat, right? But this is the thing. Something has to give. In order for you to change your life, something has to give. You cannot continue to sing the same song and want different outcomes. You got to do different to have different. So take responsibility and do what you need to do to change your life. The other thing is that if you're always blaming other people, so and so messed up my day, I was in a really good mood until that person said this, or until that person walked into the building. I was doing just fine before I got married. I was doing just fine before I had children. I was doing just fine. There's always a reason, right? But here's the thing. You've got to learn to roll with the punches. You made the decision to get married. You made the decision to get out of that marriage. You made the decision to be in that relationship. Now, while you cannot control how other people treat you, you can certainly control how you respond. I'm not saying it's easy. No, I've been there. It's nice to want to blame other people, because then it absolves you, doesn't it? It means that you don't have to be responsible for anything that happened in your life because somebody else was to blame. And I think that might be true. You trusted the wrong person. I so many times trusted the wrong person. But I could blame that. I could blame on that. But rather, I decided I'm going to educate myself on how people behave. I'm going to educate myself in the psychology of manipulators. And I was able to understand why I was constantly falling victim of a particular kind of person. It taught me to be better. The other thing would be if you're always feeling powerless to be able to change your life because of A, B, and C. I can't get to a certain space because I don't have a car. Well, could you get an Uber? Could you get the bus? No, you can't get the bus because you don't like public transport. Okay. Well, actually, maybe walk or take a bike if you don't have one. There's always a reason as to why you cannot do something. And that reason is reinforced by the fact that we blame somebody else. If it wasn't for London transport, I would have been here on time. I would have made the interview. But I was late because TfL happened to divert all their buses into a different route, and therefore I was late. So maybe how about making it a point for you to be early at all your appointments? So if there is that misfortune where the buses run late, you're still able to make it on time. How about choosing to have breakfast nearer to where your interview is or nearer to where your work is, as opposed to always cutting things fine? Stop blaming others. Stop playing the victim and take ownership for your life. The last thing I will say is holding grudges. Now, I think that's rooted with a lot of the tail end of the victim description. That is actually feeling as if we have no control about how other people treat us. And I think, that is true. We don't have we have absolutely no control about how other people treat us, but we have control, absolute control, as to whether we accept that treatment, especially as adults, whether we push back or whether we say, no, thank you, and I will not let you cross that line again. We always have a choice. We don't have to hold grudges. And I know some of them are better nursed, especially when we know we can place blame somewhere else and squarely be able to do that. But I think ultimately, for our own freedom, for our own sanity, for our own growth and development, we need to learn to also reflect back on ourselves. How could we have grown better? How could we have learned better? I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, there's times I want to blame people and I want to hold on to that bone for as long as I can. But then I realize ultimately, I have to be the one that has to deal with it. The other person may not even be thinking twice, may not have lost any sleep over what they did to me, but I'm still holding on to it. We have to learn to be wiser and realize when to let go of the fire that we've been holding on to, hoping that the other person gets burnt. I hope that's been helpful. What an incredible day. I'll speak to you very soon. Take care.